Yeah, man, Sports at the Bone here again, Shout out to all the viewers and subscribers. Yeah, man, I don't know. Alright, so for the past couple of days, I've seen on the news and in social media where a particular story is floating around, and it has to do with a well-known Jamaican footballer here in Jamaica, tweeting out some stuff saying that boy is going through abuse, and just a couple of days he was beaten and left on the road to bleed out and things like that. So without tearing the story apart or digging into it, because I don't know the story, I don't know the full details, it was just a couple of tweets that this player actually sent out on Twitter, and people screenshot it, and it has been all over the media and stuff like that. So without knowing everything about this story, I am just going to take the opportunity to look at a couple of things that coaches need to bear in mind, especially when you are dealing with children. Now in Jamaica for years, athletes, especially student athletes and their parents, have been complaining about their child or children being abused by different coaches, just to carry out a particular routine in training, or just to finish a particular set, or whatever the case is. And I mean, you need to understand that there is a fine line between pushing an athlete to his or her limit and actually abusing the athlete. I understand that as a coach, you're going to need to push an athlete to their limit as it regards to getting the best out of them in training, but that can be achieved without pushing the boundary into abuse. All right, and we're talking about physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, whatever the case is. We have to bear in mind, I mean, Jamaica is rich in sport as it regards to primary and high school sport. So, from time to time, we will hear these type of stories popping up in the news. I mean, it's always good to push an athlete to their maximum or to their limit just to get their maximum performance. But once you are going to overstep that line, that is no longer coaching, that is abusing. You understand? That is abusing the athlete. And having said all of that, it is key to note that some coaches actually push athletes to their limit to benefit the athletes. But you have some coaches that are actually pushing the athletes to the limit and abusing them just to benefit themselves, because they are going to be known as the coach that actually got this athlete to do this, got this athlete to do that. And when the athlete is successful, I guess, based on contract, some of them might get a certain percentage. But at the end of the day, once you are going to abuse somebody, then it no longer becomes fun. And sports, people look at sports as their profession, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be enjoying it to get your maximum performance. If you're not enjoying it, if you're not comfortable, then more than likely you're not going to be able to perform at a extremely good level. So you have to be careful when you are given the duty of coaching athlete. And right now, as somebody that is in and around the sporting scene or the sporting arena, I can say this without a shadow of a doubt. You see, the love that an athlete might have for a sport right now, 10-15 years from now, that person might not have the same love for the sport. And if you don't have the love for it, it will appear as if you are not putting out your maximum effort. Why? Because you are no longer interested in that. You want to move on to other things. So it is key for a coach or for managers to be able to identify when their athletes are actually drifting. Because if an athlete is drifting away from the sport, then you won't get their best effort. And it goes without saying, it has to do with all type of jobs. If you are not comfortable in the job, if you are no longer interested in the job, then you are not going to put out the effort like you would do when you were actually in love with the job. So when we look at it from a coaching perspective, it is always important for a coach to be able to identify that, boy, it's time for me to let go of this athlete because the athlete don't want to do this. If you are going to bring violence to an athlete just to get a performance, then you would have already failed as a coach. It is just as plain as that. If you need to bring some form of abuse to an athlete just to get them to perform, then you would have already failed as a coach. So it is important as a coach to know that, boy, there are certain lines that you don't cross. You want the athlete to perform well, but you don't cross certain line. I mean, as a coach, seeing the potential in an athlete going to waste can be very frustrating, because some coaches would have already gone through their playing career. They would have already seen players go what people would have achieved out of the sport. So as a coach, to stand by and to watch an athlete going down the drain, or watch their ability or potential going down the drain, is very frustrating. But that is why I'm saying that as a coach, it is extremely important to know when to let go, because sometimes I can tell you, man, from personal experience. You see, when I buck up on a one or a two boy or a two girl which part can play a ball, and you look and you see, boy, the child, the athlete is basically sidestepping. It is really frustrating. But at the end of the day, if that student athlete don't decide that they want to continue, you have to just leave them. And we're talking about a student athlete. What about when we're talking about an adult? Because the tweet that we saw going around on social media, it's actually an adult. I think the youngster is about 23, I think. The youngster is probably about 22, 23, I think. I don't remember. But that's an adult. So if the adult decides that, boy, right now, I fall out of love with this ball game, me not based on the tweet that he was beaten and left to bleed out and all of that. But not see the reason you're going to do that if it is true. Because they say one side of story is not story. But I'm just saying, if you as a coach can understand, say, boy, you need to be able to let go, then you would have already failed as a coach. You understand? I am looking at it from a student athlete perspective, because we have seen where loads of these type of stories would have made the news. But now we are talking about an adult. This story that is currently going around, making the rounds on the internet, is actually an adult in it. So I don't know how you can abuse an adult to do something that they don't want to do. It's not a good look, man. And I mean, being in this field, I know that I have seen going to champs, going to football matches and watching athletes. I have seen where athletes have been abused verbally, emotionally, and even physically already. But as I said earlier in the video, as a coach, you have to be able to control yourself. Sometimes the emotions might get caught up. Sometimes they might get caught up in the emotions of the game or in the emotions of competing, but you have to be able to control yourself, right? Because as I said, there are a whole lot of personal experience that I can bring to this. Because a couple of times I would have been training youngsters after school and at football training, and I have to make a one or two shout after them when they are not doing something. But there and then you have to be able to know that, boy, say I need to calm down, say I shouldn't say this, I shouldn't say that. Or even if you eventually say something, you have to look into it and say, boy, that I'm going to make the athlete feel away, and you call over the athlete and say, watch now. Boy, say I shouldn't even shout after you. I'm sorry, man. But I want you to do better, right? But things like that will happen when you are coaching, because coaching athletes, it all has to do with emotions, especially when it has to do with performance. And when you are going to read into it as a coach and say, boy, the athlete is not putting out a maximum effort, you are sometimes as a coach going to feel like you need to show that you are dominant or you are in charge, but you have to be able to control yourself. And as I said, this story that is floating around, it's just a couple of tweets. We haven't seen any interview. We haven't really seen any reply from whoever the person is accusing. So we can't even dig too deep in it. But I just use this opportunity to take a look at this situation, because a lot of these type of things are actually happening with our student athletes. If you can imagine an adult being abused because the adult don't want to play ball, then you can just imagine what our dear and poor student athletes are going through from time to time. But we are actually going to watch and see what is going to come of this, because it's actually a prominent family, people that are well known. So we will see how things will turn out. And it seems as if the person that was abused is saying, boy, right now he's tired of this, and he wants to put a stop to it. So I am assuming that we will hear more about this, and I am looking forward to the different sporting personalities, journalists that are usually calling in these type of people and interviewing them, because being in the sporting world, we want to know what is happening. But it's really a sad state. If this is indeed truthful, it's indeed sad. But as I said, we have to just sit back and relax and listen in the next couple of days to see how things turn out. Sports to the bone, keeping you informed. Please remember to like, share, leave us a comment. If you have not yet subscribed, remember to subscribe to the channel. I'm out.